Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sedgwick County Board of County Commissioners meeting. Welcome to those joining online, Facebook and YouTube, and everyone joining us in person. We're glad you're here today. When you walk in, we always encourage you to grab a meeting agenda packet that allows you to follow along with all the items we're discussing at today's County Commission meeting. If you're ever curious about all the supporting documents, you have access. You can always access those at www.sedgwickcounty.org. Now let's get to work. We got a great meeting today with a lot of business, so let's officially call the meeting to order for Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. Madam Clerk, first item.
Invocation to be led by Rabbi Shmulik Greenberg, Shabbat of Wichita. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, sovereign of the universe, look favorably upon the honorable members of the Board of County Commissioners, all of us gathered in this chamber and those watching online this morning, and bestow upon us all the joy of life, good health, and prosperity. In 1950, in the shadows of the devastation of the Holocaust, the Lubavitcher Rebbe galvanized the shattered nation to rebuild and guided millions of others toward a better life with a tremendous focus on the value of the individual. Based on traditional interpretations of the Bible, he taught that our turbulent world is truly a divine garden, and we are its gardeners to reveal its true beauty through our acts of goodness and kindness. The Rebbe taught that every individual and every individual action impacts the entire universe. He emphasized the importance of education and good character and instilled hope for a brighter future in the lives of countless people in America and across the globe. The Rebbe encouraged spreading awareness of the 7 universal laws given to mankind by God through Noah, one of which instructs us to create a peaceful and moral society governed by law. These laws also include the importance of serving God alone, respecting God's name, and the prohibition against murder, theft, adultery, and cruelty against all living creatures. A society guided by these principles is on track to achieve true world peace and tranquility. Please, God, give strength to our elected officials to be cognizant of your presence, and they have the ability to elevate the quality of life for everyone in our region and to inspire us all to come together in unity, that we truly care for our peers, society, and our environment, and work together to make our world a better and happier place for all. May our Heartland region serve as a beacon of life, strength, and moral courage as we do our part in preparing the world for an era of global peace and tranquility. May this occur speedily in our times, and let us all say Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk, next item.
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner.
Present.
Commissioner Beatty.
Present.
Commissioner Howe.
Present.
Commissioner Wise. Present. Chairman Bluboff.
Present.
County announcements.
County announcements, yes.
There you go.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Nicole Gibbs of Strategic Communications. Sedgwick County, the City of Wichita, and Wichita Public Schools are looking for the 2026 Public Service Award recipients, and we need your help. We are in search of someone who is dedicated to serving their community, volunteers their time helping others, holds themselves to the highest standards, and has the heart of a public servant. Nominations are due by February 9th, and you can submit your nomination online at wichita.gov. This is your last chance reminder to drop off your real Christmas tree at one of our Sedgwick County Environmental Resources locations. We have 22 sites, and you can get free mulch while you're there. This is going on through this Friday, February 23rd. You can visit sedgwickcounty.org/environment for a list of drop-off locations. Father Winter has decided to visit us this weekend, and in my opinion, bringing wind chills well below acceptable temperatures and a healthy side of snow that's not okay. But that's just me. So, Sedgwick County EMS has helped us put together a short video to explain the warning signs of hypothermia and when it's time to seek help.
Hypothermia is serious and can escalate quickly. If you're outside in the cold and begin to shiver uncontrollably, feel confused, tired, and have slurred speech, you need to go inside and warm up. Remove any wet clothing, cover yourself with heating pads and a warm blanket. If the shivering suddenly stops, you experience shallow breathing, a low heart rate, or lose consciousness, it's time to get help and call 911. For more winter safety tips for you and your family, go to the Sedgwick County website.
And that is all I have for today. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions, commissioners? All right, thank you very much, Nicole.
No problem.
Next item is public agenda. We have 2 people that have signed up for public agenda. So the first one is Jay Russell. You don't have anything? Okay. Next person is it Isidore Vitt? Yeah, Isidore.
Good morning, Commissioners, public. Isidore Avett, resident of Wichita, Kansas now since mid-70s. You've been doing a great job, I guess, because I haven't had occasion to come out and talk with you before. But I've heard you've been doing a lot of work on the power generation, the solar installation, which will be out here in our county area. And I'm really happy to see you moving on it. Looks like you've been working almost 2 years by the time we get up and running. So I only became aware of it recently. Lori was able to bring me up to date a little bit on this. Solar energy is a nice, clean approach. I've used it myself since about the turn of the century. I'm happy with it. I've got panels up that are still running. So, and they're only getting better. Also become aware that we have some great industries developing for recycling this whole equipment. But also, I'm very glad that you have adopted something of a cradle-to-grave approach on this project, something I'm happy to see showing up more in America. But yeah, that way we won't have a lot of wasted land. And I mean, obviously, I know you've been very aware of the low impact as far as what it's going to have with the community. We don't have toxins. We don't have water consumption that a lot of other industries are going to be using. So they make a great neighbor. So I really thankful for the work that you've put in on this and hope to see much more of it developing. I think by having this installation up and in place, we'll also get some good data on some other large-scale solar industries. So I thank you for your work, and please continue on. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions? No. Okay. All right. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to file public comment. Okay.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye. Next item, please.
Appointments.
With Justin.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Justin Wagoner, County Councilor. I've got 2 items under appointments. I understand there may be a preference to take those items up separately, so I'll start with item A. Item A is an item to accept the resignation of Gary Witt from the District Collaboration Board for District 5. The recommended action is to accept that resignation.
Commissioner Howell.
All right. Thank you for the chance to speak on this. Gary has been faithful to attend that. We've had quite a few meetings this last year. He no longer wants to participate, but I want to say thank you to Gary for his service to the county, and I will be looking forward to finding someone to replace him on that board. But with that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the resignation of Gary Witt.
Yes. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Howell and second by Commissioner Wise. Madam Clerk, is there any discussion? No. Commissioner, just okay. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye. Okay.
All right, Chairman, item B is also in front of you. That's the resolution on the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission appointment. Turn it back over to you if there's any comments on that.
So Commissioner Howell, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say this is probably one of the most important appointments we have as commissioners. This gets into private property rights. And again, I think that the person that's been named in the resolution is fantastic. I have a great respect for him. But this is moving a little too quick for me, and I would like to go ahead and just take a little bit of time to review the potential candidates for this position and bring it back on February the 4th. And so, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to defer item B until the next meeting on, I believe it's February 4th of next month.
Okay. We have a motion to defer until our next meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Howell and a second by Commissioner Meitzner. Any discussion? Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise. Aye. Chairman Blubow.
Aye. All right. At this time, I would like to go ahead and recess the county commission meeting and go into the governing fire board meeting for fire district number 1. Could you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner.
Present.
Commissioner Beatty.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Wise. Present. Chairman Blubow.
Present.
Public agenda.
Hey, could you please call the first item?
Public agenda.
We do not have anyone signed up on the public agenda for the fire district number 1. Next item, please.
Appointments.
Appointments.
Chairman, my apologies. Justin Wagner, County Councilor. Item A is an item to accept the resignation of Jesse Miller from the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council. Item B is a resolution appointing Kent Kohler to the Fire District Steering Council as recommended by Fire Chief Doug Williams. This is the same vacancy that would be created by item A. It's the City of Bel Air's appointment to that Steering Council. Recommended action could just be taken in a single motion. I don't think there's any reason you have to split those out, Chairman.
Okay. Do we have any discussion, commissioners? Okay. If not, I'd like to go ahead and take up the action as a single motion. So accept the resignation and adopt the resolution.
I'll second the motion.
Second. The motion is made and seconded. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise. Aye. Chairman Blubow.
Aye. All right, at this time, we will recess. Pardon me?
Finish that.
Okay, so we don't have anything
Anything under other?
under other for the fire district?
He needs to be sworn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll go ahead and, County Clerk, would you like to swear him in?
There he is.
I apologize, I didn't realize you guys were here.
Morning, Commissioners. All right, please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council, so help me God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
If you'd like to say anything. Thank you, whatever.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's been about 15 years since the last time I've attended one of these meetings. I saw this opportunity come up as a result of the Bel Air mayor posting it, so it gave me a chance to kind of give back a little bit and help the district and help you all and all the citizens of this district and this county.
Thank you very much for stepping up to serve. I really appreciate the opportunity. Commissioner Beatty?
I just want to thank you, Ken, for serving this role. There's a lot going on in the fire district right now, a lot of consequential conversations, and this steering council has really been instrumental in helping us form our approach for the fire district. And so this is a big role. It's an important role, and you're serving a big district that is in the midst of some reform. So we're grateful for your willingness to serve, and we really look forward to getting your insight and feedback.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next item.
Other.
Other. Do we have any? We don't have anything on other. We do not have an executive session. So at this time, I would like to make a motion, or I guess we'll just adjourn out of the Fire District Number 1, and we will go back into the County Commission meeting. So next item on the County Commission agenda is new business.
New business, item C, ZON 2025-00053, zone change request in the county from RR Rural Residential District to LI Limited Industrial District, generally located on the southeast corner of East 45th Street North and North Greenwich Road.
Scott Wadle, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, Scott Wadle from the Planning Department. So for this one, okay, good. We're still sorting out the PowerPoint shows. So I'll go ahead and give you the verbal, and then we'll go through the PowerPoint slides. So for this one, the applicant is requesting, as you heard, to rezone the property from RR Rural Residential to LI Limited Industrial. The applicant has indicated that they are requesting the rezoning in order to allow for additional uses on the site and to prepare for future development. The applicant has not indicated any specific development plans at this time. In terms of the property, the site is generally located at the southeast corner of 45th and Greenwich Road. It is made up of one ownership parcel. It's just under 160 acres in size. It's owned rural residential, currently undeveloped. It's in agricultural use and is not platted. In terms of context, properties to the north and east are in the unincorporated county, zoned rural residential and developed with large lot single-family dwellings and or used for agricultural purposes. In 2022, a conditional use for utility major for Evergy was approved for a 9.5-acre size in the southeast portion of the property to the north. So it's that square right in this area, and it's currently undeveloped. Properties to the east are developed with single-family dwellings and detached accessory structures. The dwellings are approximately 675 feet and 875 feet away from the property line. Additionally, there's an electrical transmission line within the west 100 feet of the neighboring properties, which would prohibit any type of future development near the proposed industrial zoning. So we see that occur right around in this area. Property to the northwest is in the city of Bel Air, zoned M1 manufacturing and currently in agricultural use. Property to the west is in the city of Wichita, zoned GC general commercial with a CUP and currently in use for agricultural purposes. Property to the south is in the city of Wichita, zoned LI limited industrial and currently used for agricultural purposes. And then property to the southwest is in the unincorporated county, zoned LI and currently in agricultural use. So diversity in terms of communities, which jurisdictions they're in, and also what the zoning and uses are. So in terms of the staff report, the staff report provides information about development standards, the airport hazard zone standards, screening, lighting, and signage. In terms of review, on December 4th, the Planning Commission, MAPC, considered the application, had the public hearing. They recommended approval of the request by a 10-0 vote, so it was unanimous. No members of the public spoke in opposition to the request. One note, though, is that prior to the MAPC hearing, staff received written public comment opposing the application. These comments are included in the agenda packet and were distributed to the planning commissioners. In general, the comments state the following concerns. So one was that industrial zoning is not compatible with the existing uses in the area. A second was concerns of large areas of undeveloped industrial zone land that were already prevalent in the area. And then the third was that 45th Street is an unpaved gravel road at this time and not able to accommodate heavy industrial traffic. So in terms of protest, multiple protests were received for this case. They accounted for about 40%, and we'll flip to that map real quick. They accounted for about 40% of the net protest area that exceeded the 20% threshold established by the state. So therefore, a supermajority is required in order to approve a rezoning of this property. So that's 4 out of 5 votes. The recommendation coming to you today from the Planning Commission is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission, approve the zone change request, authorize the chairman to sign the resolution, and authorize the resolution to be published. And again, that requires 4 out of 5 because of the protest. Alternatives include the following. You can override the MAPC, adopt alternative findings, and deny the application. That would require 4 out of 5 votes. Or as always, you can return the case to the MAPC for further consideration with a statement specifying the basis for the failure to approve or deny the application application, and that would require just a simple majority. A quick note about attendance, that the applicant and their agent are present today. And with that, I'll take you through some of the graphics and photos real quick. So here's the aerial. You can see it's outlined in the turquoise color there. The purple/pink lines, those indicate the boundaries of the unincorporated county, city, and Bel Air as well. Here's the zoning map, which was described earlier. Here's the urban areas of influence map. It shows that it's not located in either Wichita's or Bel Air's. Here's the urban growth areas map from the comprehensive plan, and the future growth concept map from the comprehensive plan as well. Here's the protest map, which was described earlier, and here are photos from the site and the surrounding area. Let's kind of go through those kind of quickly. All right, with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Scott? Okay. Commissioners, have you had any ex parte communication as to this zoning case?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have had some ex parte verbal communications with the applicant. Other than that, no other, and I still stand open for this.
Okay. I've had 0 ex parte communication. I remain open-minded, ready to hear the facts of the case.
Okay. I have not had any ex parte communication.
I've not had any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. You have 5 minutes to speak on this. Please provide your name and address. Okay.
Close.
Okay. Do we have any comment from the applicant?
Not unless you have a question.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Okay.
Commissioner Meissner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, just clarification on related to the protest. You said a number of, but I think there's just 2 protests. Is that right? They just own a lot of the land.
Sir,
that's why I got to the 40%.
Yes. So I did some checking on the property ownership, and it looks like there's about maybe 4 or 5 owners in that area, but there are LLCs and trusts and other things involved, so it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly how many people protested, but we can certainly go to the map and show you that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll stand for other questions or comments from my fellow commissioners, but obviously Greenwich Road is booming, growing. It's part of the future of the county, or at least the northeast part of the county for sure. And there's property owners on the west side of Greenwich that are taking a great investment in our community, and this applicant has also got a history of great services and production in our community, all over the community. So I will stand by for any other questions or comments, but I'm ready to make a motion because it does take 4 out of 5. It was 10-0 vote at the Planning Commission, unanimous. So, but I'll stand by and see if there's any other comments.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments? No, we'll go back to Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I make a motion to approve the zone change and follow the MAPC's recommendation. I move the board takes the recommendation action.
Okay. And I'll second that motion. So we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wythe.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye. Next item, please.
Item D, ZON 2025-00054, zone change request in the county from SF20, single-family residential, to MF29, multi-family residential district, generally located on the southwest corner of North Broadway Avenue and East 69th Street North.
Okay. Scott Wadle again.
Yes, thank you, sir. So Scott Wadle from the Planning Department again. So in this case, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property from SF20, single family, to MF29, multifamily residential. In terms of the request, the applicant has indicated they are requesting the zoning change in order to allow for development of the site at a higher density than is currently permitted. The applicant requested the rezoning, and the request included a protective overlay that would limit the uses to only residential and would limit the types of housing. There are percentages that are described in the staff report for what that PO was proposed to be. Throughout the process, the applicant has indicated that it is their intent to request annexation of the property into Park City. And thanks to other Sedgwick County staff, we learned on Friday of last week that the Park City City Council approved an ordinance to annex the property. Planning staff spoke with Park City staff on Tuesday, so yesterday, and learned that Park City intends to hold off on publishing the annexation ordinance until February 5th. Their hope is to allow the Sedgwick County resolution publication to occur for the rezoning to take effect prior to that date. In terms of the property itself, the property is located at the southwest corner of Broadway and 69th Street, so you can see it identified here in the turquoise color. It's made up of one ownership parcel. It's approximately 44 acres in size, zoned SF20, currently undeveloped. It's an agricultural use, and it's not platted. In addition, it is also located within the urban area of influence for Park City. In terms of context, on December 4th, the Planning Commission, MAPC, considered this application and held the public hearing. They recommended approval per the staff recommendation, and that vote was 9-0. So I have a correction to tell, and my apologies. In our staff report, we listed it as 13-0, but it was actually 9-0. So apologies for that. One member of the public spoke in opposition to the request, citing concerns related to drainage, increased density, traffic, and trash. Now, when the MAPC voted to recommend approval, they voted per the planning staff recommendation, which was not to include the protective overlay that was requested by the applicant. So the recommendation coming to you is just to simply zone it to MF29 without a protective overlay. So the City of Park City's Planning Commission, they chose not to hear the request. Therefore, no recommendation was made. It's our understanding at the Planning Department that if the property is annexed into Park City, then they will require a rezoning to occur at that time. One protest was received against the application. That single protest constituted 56% of the protest area, and so therefore exceeds the 20% threshold. So a supermajority vote is required in order to approve a rezoning of this property, so 4 out of 5 votes. In terms of the staff report provides information about development standards, screening and landscaping, and compatibility standards. Okay, so yes, in terms of the recommendation, the MAPC is recommending that you approve the zone change request to MF29, authorize the chairman to sign the resolution, and authorize the resolution to be published. 4 out of 5 votes required. In terms of alternatives, you could override the MAPC, adopt alternative findings, and deny the application. That would require 2/3 majority or 4 out of 5 votes. Or as always, you can return the case to the MAPC for further consideration, again with a statement specifying why the failure to approve or deny the application, and that would require just a simple majority. In terms of attendance, the agent for the applicant is present today. So with that, I'll take you through some of the graphics and then stand for questions. So here's the aerial image showing the site. Here's the zoning map, and you'll notice that there is a lot of white showing on the map. That's not because they're all zoned SF5. That's because they're in a different jurisdiction other than the city of Wichita or unincorporated Sedgwick County. So we just don't show their zoning layers. Here is the future growth concept map from the comprehensive plan. Here's the urban area of influence, showing that it's in Park City's urban area of influence. Again, the urban growth areas map. Here's the map, the zoning map for Park City. And here is the map from their comprehensive plan, showing that it's identified for residential use in the future. Here's the protest map. Again, the protest accounted for more than 50%, about 56% of the protest area. Here's the floodplain map. Because this was a topic of conversation at the MAPC meeting, I just wanted to show this so that you're aware of that one, in case any questions came up. Here are photos of the site and the surrounding area. And a quick note about the flooding is that although it did come up at the MAPC meeting, that's typically addressed during the platting process. This property is unplatted. During the platting process, a drainage plan is required as part of that process. And so then improvements are required in order to comply with that as part of that endeavor. So just a quick note on process. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Commissioners, could you please declare if you had any ex parte communication in this voting case?
I have had zero ex parte communication.
Likewise, I've had no ex parte communication. I remain open-minded for the facts of the case.
I've had no ex parte communication either.
I have not had any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
Any questions, commissioners?
I don't know where my light is.
Commissioner Beatty?
Commissioner,
Commissioner Howe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to go back to this issue of the overlay. Is there something in the backup material that provides details about the overlay?
There are in the staff report on the front page, there is actually a listing of what was contained in there. And in the attachments, I believe we've got a copy of it. So it says page 2 down at the lower right-hand corner of the staff report. I think it's one of the first attachments, if not the first. Looks like it's right after the public comment that was received. So it's the second attachment. And it specifies that single-family dwellings are limited to 25% of all units, duplexes 35%, et cetera. And then it says that for all housing types except single-family, these percentages shall be maximum densities with a 25% adjustment permitted.
So why did MAPC, if the applicant proposed this, why did the Planning Commission not adopt the overlay?
Sure. Well, overlays and custom zoning really add additional complications to regulating and overseeing the application of zoning. And so in this case, we didn't feel that it was necessary. The planning staff did not, and the MAPC followed along with that recommendation.
Okay, so another question is, moving this to MF 29, that means up to, I understand, up to 29 dwelling units per
acre.
Per acre.
Yes, sir.
Are we supposed to consider the annexation plan as we approve this? Because that is something that could or could not happen. We don't know for sure that would happen. I mean, it's planned, and I'm sure that's the intent. But while we approve this for that density of housing, there's not services on the nearby or on the property that would handle that density. They would have to have city services to do this. And again, as a consequence, the county doesn't typically approve that density of housing because it would require water wells and septic systems and whatever, lagoons, whatever. So we don't normally get into quadplexes and 29 dwelling units per acre. So why are we doing this today versus letting Park City do the annexation and go forward in a normal plan?
Yes, sir. I think this is kind of a sticky issue, and it has been for the county for quite some time. At this point, we don't really have guidance to help inform the staff recommendation and really the deliberations by the MAPC about what is an acceptable level of zoning in the unincorporated county. Because you're right, you typically don't see this level, this intensity or density being permitted in the unincorporated county simply because of the services that would be necessary in order to do that. So what we do find, though, is that these types of cases often occur at the edge of cities where annexations are likely impossible in the future. So it does put the county in a little bit of an interesting situation where you're requested to approve a zoning for a density that you know cannot be served unless it's annexed into another jurisdiction.
Can they not write the annexation as a condition based on zoning being approved to their desired zoning? And then, again, I think that if the purchase agreement, the platting, the annexation, and the zoning can all be conditional on each other, so to speak. So if any one of those doesn't pass or any one of those ends up becoming a problem, that there's protections to the prospective developer, that they don't get stuck with something they can't develop. So again, in the past, when we've done this type of thing, normally the county doesn't normally do this type of zone change simply because we don't have any plan on how they could possibly get those services. And And again, the city does have the power to provide annexation and then provide the zone change and work the plat or all those things. That's all within the control of the city. If us doing just the zoning piece sets us up for failure. Again, if everything else goes out as planned, that's not a problem. But I guess I'm looking at Justin for just a minute here. Are we supposed to assume then that this annexation is guaranteed?
Justin Wagner, County Councilor. Commissioner Howell, that's a good question. I don't know that there's a presumption that you would have to make one way or another on that. I don't think it's improper for you or other commissioners to consider the likelihood or possibility of annexation. I believe Park City could unilaterally annex this even if the property owner didn't wish to be annexed. But I think what you're pointing out is a challenge for Sedgwick County and other counties, in that the laws put in place, if there's an application for a zoning action, that you have to consider it. Yet in this case, it's very clear that there's an intent on the applicant's part to get annexed. And so in this, I don't know that it would be wrong for you all to consider the likelihood of Park City's annexation here. So I don't want to say that, but there's also no guarantees that for sure will happen. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Howe?
Yeah, it does. Looking at like slide 5, for example, there's a couple of other places you can see this, but for this to be selected for development for housing, I think it makes total sense that this is a discussion that needs to happen, and it seems like a reasonable place to plan this type of housing. But I just don't know that I like the fact that the county's making a decision that really should belong to the city, and I just feel like we're getting this backwards for some reason. I guess as the people speak during the public hearing, I'd like to understand the rationale as to why are we doing this versus a normal process where the city could do this step by step or even make them contingent on each other, which I've seen before as well. So I don't understand it, but I'm looking forward to some good answers for that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brady?
Yeah, many of the same questions that Commissioner Howell just raised, I also have. And I know the applicant agent's here, so I assume that we'll hear from, and I'll have some questions for the applicant's agent. Park City, correct me if I'm wrong, they've already taken a vote to annex that was approved. They just haven't publicly declared this yet in a public paper. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, sir, is that they did approve the ordinance.
And Commissioner Beatty, my understanding is they approved it and it hasn't been published yet. So it's probably a formality publication, but until publication happens, the annexation's not effective.
Well, let me ask a question then, because I also share in the heartburn of we're taking an action knowing that the city is going to annex. I have a lot of heartburn over that. I'm generally supportive of what's happening here. I do have some questions, but it's the process in which I don't know if this is a dozen times now, I've probably expressed the same heartburn that if there's an annexation that's coming, why is the county ruling on a property, a zoning question that is not going to be in our jurisdiction in the matter of 60 to 90 days? So what happens if whatever resolution comes of today, if Park City is going to annex, that requires them based on their ordinances to do another zoning hearing? What happens to the ruling that we make today? Is it
Well, that's a good question, Commissioner Brady. It probably comes down to when the action becomes final and official from each governing body. So right now, I think that Park City's proposed annexation and likely annexation isn't effective, although it will be once they publish it. If it had already been published, you wouldn't have jurisdiction over the zoning case anymore. But because it has not been published at this point, it's not final. So it sounds like either way, from what Scott Wadle's indicated, that Park City would have to go through a zoning action. And I believe it was expressed, I can't remember if Scott said anything this morning, but I think it was expressed to the Planning Commission that there were some contractual requirements, and the applicant's agent can speak to that in terms of why they were doing it the way they did, in terms of there was a time frame they needed to get any type of zoning application filed for. So
to be clear, some of this is a public exercise that we're going through right now, not specifically about this application in as much as just the process is complicated. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if you were able to answer my question. What happens, does Park City zoning action after the annexation is published override anything we do today? It would.
Yeah, Commissioner Beatty, once the property is annexed into Park City, it's their zoning action to take. And so your zoning action more or less becomes nullified because the zoning action be specific to Sedgwick County, and then Park City has their own zoning code, their own definitions.
They're just waiting to publish the action they've already taken. So this feels a little futile today, but it's important, and these are important conversations. So for the public and my constituents' interest, I want to ask some questions. Lynn, do you have a second, our county engineer? This is in a floodplain. The conversation of how these floodplains get worked out happens in plating, as Scott had said. Do you have concerns with, if we do a dense development here, do we have concerns on how it will impact the floodplain for not just the individuals to be living here, but the neighbors associated around this property? Do we have concerns?
For the record, Lynn Packer, your Director of Public Works and County Engineer. Actually, we've had the entire property under consideration right now is within a floodplain. There has been considerable issues with drainage along 69th Street, the south ditch of this or the north ditch of this property. We've always said the one thing that could possibly make improvements here is development.
Yeah.
It is going to require that these properties do be lifted, brought out of the future properties, brought out of the floodplain, but they have the opportunity for infrastructure and detention that would help greatly without water that's being pushed out of the ditch right now.
Yeah, this is an opportunity to remove a big piece of land out of the floodplain and put it into development. I do see the benefit of that. I just want to make sure that we have no concerns with neighboring properties that what happens here might have a negative impact. I want the public to hear the county engineer's opinion on it. So,
although not part of the zoning case, when plating gets brought up, that's when the drainage issues we brought up, and Park City is already aware of the issues we have out there, and we have reached out to them again to remind them that this is an opportunity.
Okay, I think the rest of my questions I'll probably have for the applicant's agent. So, thanks, Lynn.
Commissioner Howell?
Yeah, don't go too far, Lynn. I have a question that might impact both you and Scott, but based on this, it's 44 acres. I understand that the plat will probably have it may be a retention or detention pond, perhaps, whatever. There's going to be some of the 44 acres will be used up in that type of water management. But that aside, since we don't know what that is right now, this is a 44-acre lot. And at this density, if I do the simple math, it's 1,276 dwelling units, potentially, right? Almost 1,300 dwelling units. The question for you, Lynn, is how many vehicles per day is the dwelling unit generate?
On average, it varies, and it's a little bit different because you have multifamily units now. So, but a single-family unit will typically develop about 10 trips a day.
Why would a multifamily unit be different?
Well, you're looking at one property, and in this case, if I saw what I saw was correct, they're looking at duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. So those would have not necessarily, going up to 20, 30, 40 trips per day, because you typically aren't going to have the typical family of 4.3 in every unit of a quadplex. But you are looking at probably 20 to easily still having 20 to 30 per quad out there, and they had different percentages they were shooting for each type of housing unit.
Well, again, a lot of this is speculation. We don't know how many housing units we'll end up having, or what the density per house, how many people per home. But you're 4.3. If those numbers held in this case, and again, I'm not saying they will, we're talking well over 10,000 vehicles per day. I understand Broadway's paved. What about 69th Street? Is it paved?
It is also paved.
So, okay. Is there any concerns about another 10,000 vehicles per day going in and out of that property?
That would be significant, not only for 69th and Broadway, but the intersection. I would assume, again, I don't know what plans Park City has, but that during planning process is when you consider those improvements that are needed and work with the developer on helping with those improvements. I can easily see turn lanes being added to the development for the development entrances, as well as potentially some improvements at the intersection.
Okay. So my question's for you, and maybe I have another question for Scott and possibly Justin again. So the previous commissioner, Commissioner Beatty, asked a question, but I want to ask the question slightly differently. Is on the annexation publication that they put out, is there any contingency on that moving forward based on what we do here? In other words, if we did not approve this, what do they do with their annexation decision and publication plan?
I really don't know, sir. That's really between them, so I'm not really.
Is there some reason they explained as to why they're holding off on the publication?
My understanding was in order to provide time for, if this gets approved, for this publication to take effect, the rezoning to be in effect before they publish theirs.
Is there any difference in the notification to the public regarding whether this is done by the county or by the city?
In terms of zoning?
In other words, do the people, if this was annexed into the city before, well, as the zone change was made or zone change was made afterwards, okay, so if they reverse these order of operation, if you will, how's the notification to the city different, if at all? Is there any difference in the public's awareness of what's going on here?
I am not familiar with Park City's zoning code well enough to know, but what I can share is that state statutes do require publication in the paper, mail out notice. Okay, yep, looks like that covers it. Yep.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hey, Commissioner Howell, this is Kirk Sponsel, Deputy County Councilor. Sorry to hijack the conversation, Scott, a little bit. It was just, I do have some more direct answers for you. I do have the copy of the City of Park City Ordinance. It does not express any language that is contingent on the actions of the.
The application was submitted to Sedgwick County to go through MAPC. So that's initially where we are at. The annexation has been requested by the seller into Park City. That was acted upon, I think, last week, so it has not been published yet. It's a clear understanding from all parties that once the property is annexed into Park City, that we will have to go through their zoning process again to R3 is their category, because they don't have, the categories don't transfer over. So, and we also have an agreement, kind of adding another layer to this, we have an agreement with the City of Park City that if for whatever reason the zoning were not to go through in Park City, if it were not approved or the plat were not approved, that Park City would agree to de-annex this property. So this is really an assurance that either way, whether this property is in the City of Park City or in the county, that it has the proper zoning needed for this land transaction. Let's talk about some of the density issues. We as the applicant proposed that protective overlay that you've got in your staff report that showed kind of a ratio of, because it's planned to be a mixed use, some single family, some duplexes, some triplexes. So those are the ratios that we anticipate this property is going to be developed at. Quite a bit of it's going to be single family. So MF29, though, was the one category that if there are portions of the property that require a higher density, they would affect the whole property. The protective overlay was meant to give an assurance that not the entire property would be developed at such a high density, but staff felt that actually the entire property was appropriate for high density, so they recommended removing the protective overlay, which the Planning Commission agreed to. As far as notification, we did notify the maximum area, the 1,000-foot notification area. If that were within Park City, they don't necessarily have that requirement for as large of a notification area. The one person that did protest this was simply based on drainage issues that property is already experiencing. As Lynn Packer said, we really see this as an opportunity to make improvements that will improve the drainage situation overall in that area. And this is, we also, it will likely be combined with the property to the south of it. So there's an even greater opportunity there to address those drainage issues. I will stand for any questions that you have. I hope that that's like I said, it is very complicated, and we apologize that because of the timeline of contractual issues and land transactions, that it has put us in this position of some duplicity, but also to guarantee a developable piece of property at the end of the day to our buyer.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Beatty?
Yeah, Kim, thank you for that. It's helpful. And please understand some of what you're hearing here, some of this frustration is that the process, it's not the applicant, it's not, Park City needs this housing. It's been made it very clear they need to grow some of their development, their housing development. So I'm going to ask staff, so I'm going to borrow a little bit of this time to ask staff that this has happened probably a dozen times since I've been on the bench for 3 years. I do think we need to have a conversation about policy and what this looks like. When this is for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, this is a rather futile attempt from the county commission. And there's staff hours going into this, there's applicant hours going into this. In some of these cases, there have been protest hours where people that protest these things are taking off work to come here. And there's cost involved and taxpayer cost involved in that. So we need to have a deeper conversation about the order these do. And if we hear these things, knowing what's coming with the annexation piece of it. So, and I'm not against the annexation at all. I think this makes a lot of sense. And I know where Park City's plans are. So I got a couple questions. There's been conversations here at the county. Commissioner Wise and I are engaging some communities in Western Kansas about this density issue and water. Is this well water here?
No, this will be served, the entire property will be served by Park City's municipal services.
And that's part of the conversation?
Yes, and okay. we have ensured that they have capacity to provide that, and they are willing to do so and extend their services.
Kim, that's good to know. If this was not, that kind of density was dependent on well water, it would likely change my opinion on how this feels and how I feel about this project. But knowing that, then making clarity for that, I think, is really helpful. I know this is a zoning hearing. We're not talking about platting at this point in time, but at one point in time, there was a conversation about the concerns on some of the flooding and the applicant willing to triple the size of the ditches and do some things there. Is that going to be a conversation?
That's going to be part of the platting, definitely. Along 69th Street, there needs to be some significant changes made to that.
So you already know, and that's already part of the planning, that you're going to address that. Okay. I guess my last question is on this protective overlay. This makes a lot of sense. I think you did indicate that this was put in place by the seller. Does that?
We, as the applicant, suggested that protective overlay, and I think I mentioned it at the Planning Commission hearing, that it is the one time in my experience that what planning staff is recommending is
less
intensive than what we, as the applicant, recommended. So
I guess my question is, if this was a well water dependent density, my concerns on density, I would be more favorable of this protective overlay to kind of protect water source and particularly water source.
And I think that was kind of where staff, where they landed at, that if this property truly is going to be served with municipal services and it's appropriate for multifamily, then let it be multifamily.
Would you have any concerns? I might be asking a very wide question here, a broad question, but if this is going to remain, right now the annexation is assumed done but not completed.
Right, just not published.
Which would also mean that there's an assumption there will be city water stretched, but it's not affirmed yet.
Right.
Would you have any heartburn if I asked for this protective overlay to be put in to protect density? And then when you get to Park City, and we all know when you get there, it's a completely different process now, and they can strip the overlay if they want because it's going to be city water sources. Would you have any heartburn with that layer of confidence protection from this county to put that protective overlay back in there, knowing that right now it is well water dependent and just in case it remains well water?
We are perfectly comfortable with that. I mean, because one of the outstanding issues is that if for some insane reason this were not approved for the rezoning in Park City and not platted in Park City, then Park City agrees to de-annex the property, which brings it back to the county, which brings your action
matters,
back
yeah.
into play.
Right.
So we are perfectly comfortable with that overlay. You know, I mean, the chances of that are infinitesimally
understand,
small, but
yeah.
they're there. There's no such.
And the water conversation around here is very important.
Right, and
We take
that
it
would
very
be
seriously.
important
Okay.
when, if that ever happened.
My hope is that this turns into a city water source. I think that's the best for everyone involved in this area. So, okay, I think I've had my questions satisfied. And again, one second, Justin. Again, I hope that we can have a deeper conversation about policy and the order of these things happening with annexations. This happens a lot here, and I don't think it should be happening a lot here. So,
Yeah, Commissioner Beatty, Justin Wagner, County Councilor again. Just an idea that I think parallels with what you're thinking. I mean, I know you talked through the proposed protective overlay. An alternative could be to have a protective overlay that would establish that a public water source would be used for any of this if you did that. And maybe that's more direct than the controlling the amount of residences. And I don't know how the applicant's agent feels about that, but that's a more specific one, I think. And that could be not just the city of Park City, but if there's any water district in the area. I don't know if there are or not. But
how does the applicant agents feel about that?
We would be agreeable to that as well. We certainly don't want to provide a development like this that is dependent on well water for a supply.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Wise?
Thank you, Kim, for clarifying the process and why we're here and listening to it today. I won't repeat many of the questions I had. Commissioner Beatty just asked. My focus is on water connection assurance. I want to make sure, for the same reasons that he expressed, that we have some assurance that that will be handled properly. And then also the drainage, knowing that we already have some drainage issues. I know in goodwill of all that those drainage issues will be addressed properly, but I want some assurance on that as well. So I share many of those concerns. Thank you for addressing those, and I would support modifying that approval to the overlay for that reason.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. So normally when a city annexes a property, there is a service plan. There is no service plan in this case.
Well, that's because we are requesting annexation. This is not a unilateral annexation.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay.
no service plan is required under state statute.
And Kim, I've talked with you before, but please remind me who employs you to be here today? You're a representative of
the property owner.
Yeah, but what company do you work for? What's your expertise? I
am a zoning and land use consultant.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Former planning director for the city of Mays.
So if I use the word expert and say you're an expert when it comes to this type of stuff, that's what you do, right? Okay, so what is this time constraint we're talking about? Why is there a time constraint?
It's a contractual land transaction time constraint in the time that we have as the seller to produce the property and to the due diligence that's required by the seller.
But you know how because you're an expert, you know how long things take. So you should expect this process is a normal process, and it takes this much time to get things done. There is no I don't feel any time pressure whatsoever to make a decision.
Right.
And again, it's not a problem. The contract's not my contract. So
absolutely.
You know how long things take. And if you were going to enter into a contract with a developer and say, I think I can get this done in X number of months, you're the expert. You would not shorten that knowing and put pressure on the elected officials to rush this through.
Right. And what we did not expect was how quickly the city of Park City would move to annex the property. Initially, it was indicated to us that would take a much longer time. So we had to produce the zoned piece of property to come to closing, and not knowing that Park City was going to speed up that schedule as much as they did. They're being very efficient. So the zoning hearing for the City of Park City Planning Commission is set for February 16th right now. So we were just surprised and had not experienced that before, where a city so behind this project that they really are pushing to get things moving as quick as possible.
So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is the buyer, the developer, has a condition in his contract that it must be annexed and zoned properly for his sale to close.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if either one of those things doesn't happen, he's backing out.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the smart way to write that. I guess I'm wondering why did Park City not go ahead and do the zoning and the annexation themselves already? They could have done zoning already. In fact, some cities will do them basically back to back. Why did they not already go through the zoning process?
Well, because there's actually been a couple of land transactions, and the initial property owner was not willing to submit the request to the city of Park City for annexation. So it went through another land transaction, and it is that property owner that made that request. So the schedules and the calendars were kind of a constantly moving target that we were trying to shoot for, and the simplest process to get the property zoned was to go through MAPD. Nobody in this region makes that process simpler than MAPD. To that staff's credit, they have this streamlined down to a science. So we knew we could hit. We knew exactly what dates we could hit by following the schedule and the process of MAPD.
So if we approve the zoning as presented, that triggers the closing can happen, even though there's still a zoning action that has to happen by the city of Park City.
The closing can still happen because the proper zoning is in place if you, as the Board of County Commissioners, approve it.
But again, it's got to be redone again by the city of Park City.
It does.
And which that's not guaranteed either. Again, I presume they probably would do it, but why you never know.
Yeah, that's why we have the agreement with the city of Park City that if for some crazy reason the zoning is not approved by the city of Park City, that Park City will agree to de-annex the property and it will come back into Sedgwick
What
County.
happens to the buyer in that case?
The buyer still owns the property, but he has a zoned piece of property in the jurisdiction of Sedgwick County when it's de-annexed from the city of Park City. I know this has taken a long time to get here.
I guess when Park City was trying to get this, sounds like they were cheerleading this project forward. Why they did not take up the zoning themselves? That would have expedited this.
Well, they could not. They could not if it's not in their jurisdiction. So it has to be annexed first.
So it has to be annexed before they can take up a zone change?
Yes. By state statute, they cannot act on any zoning request in property.
They can't happen side by side. In other words, the zoning is not complete until it's annexed. But can they not have a discussion on annexation and a conversation on zoning that are contingent on them both passing? Other cities have done this. That's why I'm asking.
They could. It was just that we also had different owners. And
what I'm asking is, why did they not do that? Why, if they wanted to move this forward, the city of Park City could have done these things simultaneously, in parallel, contingent on each other. They did not have to do it this way. They had another option.
Well, they did not, because they didn't have an application for annexation by the property owner.
All right, we're going round and round. I appreciate the answers,
I'm
but
sorry.
I'll listen to anybody else who wants to speak. But thank you for your answers right now. I'm not content at the moment, but we'll see if I can get content. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? All right, if not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission. Mr. Beatty?
Okay, I think I'm ready to make a motion. I appreciate the conversation here. Kim, these water conversations are really important around here, as you know, and you're used to these things because in Mays you put up a lot of housing out there when you were very experienced in these things. I'm inclined to make a motion that would actually, with the thought process that if this comes back to the county, and I know that you believe, and I likely believe too, that it's a slim chance that it does, that the county zoning is what actually is the overarching governance here. I'm inclined to make a motion that would include your protective overlay language originally and the requirement of a public water source. If I did that, would there be any heartburn? Okay, from the applicant. That helps me understand kind of what I'm working on here. So, okay, I'm going to make a motion, and if I butcher this, please yell. I move that the board approve the zone change application, but with inclusion of the protective overlay number 468 as originally proposed by the applicant, and also to include the requirement of a public water source. This motion overrides the recommendation of MAPC and approves a zone change with modifications due to factors pertaining to the suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it has been restricted and the extent to which removal of those restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. I think that's my motion. I'm getting a glance.
I did have one quick comment, Commissioner Beatty, into your motion, so it's your call, but I didn't know if you'd want to mention anything about your concerns on water. You'd already expressed that some, so.
We've been talking a lot about water, but my motion would, the reason for my motion would also include references based upon concerns on private water wells and the need for a public water source. Everybody clear on what I just did? I think I'm clear on what I just did. So,
Commissioner Howell?
Yeah, it hasn't been seconded. I have just another couple questions for Scott, I think, and I apologize for doing this, but I'm just still chewing on some of this. There was a map you put up there that showed floodplain, all that. Can you please go to that picture and explain to me what I'm looking at?
Yes, sir.
Right there. What's the blue?
So the blue is a 100-year floodplain.
So every property is in the 100-year floodplain. If this develops, they're currently all going to be in the floodplain.
Unless there are pending modifications, yes, sir.
So we're going to approve potentially MF29 for 44 acres for over 1,000, probably 1,000 dwelling units in a floodplain.
And what I would share is that as part of the permitting process, they will have to get the properties out of the 100-year floodplain in order to secure those permits to move forward.
Curiously, do we know how much, again, they have to raise, I assume that means they have to raise the elevation of that entire property. It's 44 acres. How many feet does it require to get them out of the floodplain?
I am not aware of that.
I don't have that information for that particular area, but yes, they would have to get a LOMR to be able to get the property out of the floodplain to be able to build in there with a factor of safety as well.
Okay. One more question for Scott. It wasn't that long ago, we had a development out west that was a TF3, I believe, development that we were asked to rezone that to TF3 out west, and this was the same kind of deal where annexation and zoning were happening. So again, we had to deal with the zoning, and the city was going to deal with the annexation. I think that did go forward, but other than that, was that the first time that that's happened that you can remember? Because I remember we had a conversation. Commissioner Beatty said 4 or 5 times. I'm just saying, I've been here 11 years. I'm starting my 12th year. I believe that was the first time that's ever happened. And it was TF3, but it wasn't in a floodplain. And it was also not this density. It was lower density. And again, there was it was in Wichita. It wasn't Park City. Mm-hmm. And it was surrounded by other neighborhoods. And so it was less of a chance that wasn't going to be developed and be handled properly handled. Is there any other cases you can remember where we've had this type of a question come before the county?
In terms of the level of density, the intensity of development that could be permitted there, yes, this conversation has happened multiple times. My recollection was a little bit fuzzy, though, because I also hear it at the MAPC level where that gets debated as well. We've got a number of zoning cases that are in the queue that are on the edge of the city of Wichita, for instance, in the unincorporated county, where there's a request for a different type of zoning. It's going through as a county case, but they do intend to annex into the city of Wichita. So it's not an uncommon issue for the county to be confronted with. But in terms of at this level, at the BOCC, it's probably just a less than a handful of cases. But I do remember one out west that was a significant size. I believe that was the TF3 property that you're referring to. That was, I think that one got deferred once at least to try and sort through what the annexation would mean in the sequencing.
I guess I'd ask anybody else in the room do they remember any other cases where we've had multifamily housing, residential housing, of any type of density like that come before the commission, other than that one case out west was TF3. That's the first, only one I remember. I've been here a long time, and if my memory's wrong, I apologize. But I'm asking Commissioner Beatty, is there others that you know of?
Well, I know we obviously had the conversations around Andale. We had the big conversation around 167th and 4th Street. That was a big one, a massive one. And there was another one in that same area off 135th or 167th that were high density, well water dependent. Yeah.
The one in Andale was already developed. There wasn't a development happening. It was mostly already existing housing. There was another one?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess I need to get my memory refreshed, apparently. I don't feel comfortable with this one for a number of reasons. Again, I think if city wants to go forward, they have every card in their hand to do whatever they want to do. I don't know that there's anything we're doing here today that has any actual bearing on this case. So I am uncomfortable moving this forward at this point. So I'm probably going to be opposed to the motion. I know we haven't had a second yet, but I assume this will probably pass. But I have. Let me just state up front, I'm not against the housing. I think this housing is needed, and it seems like a reasonable place to put this type of, this level of housing. I think there's a lot of good things about this proposal. I am concerned about the process, and I would tell you that if there's more cases coming that are just like this one, we need to have that conversation about we don't do it this way. This is a city decision. Cities need to have the power to make this decision, and we need to clarify what that process is. This is not the right process.
And Commissioner Howell, I do want to add a quick comment on that, just to say that I think ultimately that would probably need legislation. I think there's requirements of actions that municipalities have to take on annexations and zoning matters to where county commissions are put in awkward positions like this sometimes. So it may be something we can talk about at a staff level, see if there's any way we can do that with our home rule powers and through our own resolutions. I don't know that we can. It's probably going to require some sort of legislative line drawing of when something would not be in our purview and instead be the city's purview. But we could put some thought towards that and have some discussions and bring it back to the board as well.
Justin, just to clarify though, this annexation could be completed and the zoning could still be happen by the city. They're not, it's not that they're not able to go forward. They're saying that they can't go forward. That's not true. They can finish this annexation. It was by petition. Cities complete their annexation. The buyer has contingency opportunities. They can complete the zoning at the city level. They can do whatever they want to do. So there's nothing in the law right now that stops us from going forward other than we're creating these made-up barriers. This is not true. And again, I'm very pro-development. I'm pro getting this housing done. I just don't think this idea that this can't go forward unless we do something that's uncomfortable that cities could do. That's just not true.
And Commissioner Howell, I agree with you that they could move forward with this, but the laws essentially leave that to the applicant's discretion and determination, and it's kind of like they get a choose your own adventure approach, and they've chosen this route, and it doesn't really give the county, I don't believe, discretion to not take it up or just indefinitely defer something. So it's something we can look into further, though. I completely understand your concern.
To clarify, right now, this annexation is, again, I understand it's going to move forward. It probably sounds like it's going to. But they still got actions they have to handle to complete the annexation. As of this moment, they have no plan on how we're going to provide city services or city-like services. We talked about well water. I don't think you want to put 1,000 dwelling units on a well water. That'd be crazy. So again, the motion is to ensure that there's some type of municipal water supply. Is rural water available in this community, this area? No, it's a floodplain. Is there even rural water nearby? So if the city doesn't provide the water,
you have additional.
First off, in answer to the question, I'm not aware of rural water being in this area, and I'm looking to the agent. Kim's indicating no, there's not.
Do we have anything we could do to compel the city to provide city water to an area that's not inside the city?
I'm not sure. Okay. I'm sure there are probably negotiations that could take place and agreements. But what I would share is that there's really no way that the owner of the property could develop the property to the level that they've discussed today without having urban scale services. And that's first off because the sewer, there's a minimum requirement, my understanding is an acre per dwelling unit. So at that, they're just simply not going to get that many units. So in order to make this economically feasible, I would envision that they need to get connections at some point. If I could, there was a conversation also about kind of solutions. What do we do from here on out? And what I would like to offer is that, and I've offered this before, but I think really this highlights kind of the expediency that this needs to move, or at least be considered perhaps, is that we could make an amendment to the comprehensive plan to provide guidance for planning staff and the planning commission and expectations for applicants to indicate that urban scale zoning is not appropriate in the county. That would give staff guidance to then recommend denial on situations where we have a higher density than what could be supported in the county without services, and perhaps would help to persuade some applicants to seek that annexation before they came forward for rezoning.
I agree. We need to do that, absolutely. And again, Kim, you're an expert. I think if the city wants to go forward, the applicant wants to go forward, the buyer and the seller want to go forward, this is not a challenge that the county needs to do this. They have all the cards in their hands to get this completed. The county is not appropriate for us to be approving this density of housing in a city like would be a city decision on how this should be handled. Fundamentally, this is unreasonable for us to be asked to do this zoning as if this is the only way it can go forward. It's just not true. And I understand changing state law. I'm not asking to change state law. I don't think we have to do that for this to be solved. There's a number of reasons why. We talk about the water service. I think sanitary sewer is another problem. It's just the same problem. It's how are you going to handle that in the county? We don't have a plan. And so, again, if the city does annex it and the city provides the services, that's great, but we don't, that's not our decision to make. We are presuming the city will do what they're going to do. And if they don't, they de-annex the property, but again, it's back at the county. It's still TF20 or MF29. It doesn't make sense in the county. We should not be approving MF29 in the county. It's not appropriate for unincorporated areas. So, I'll be opposed to the motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Meissner.
Thank you. Great discussion, and not only about this opportunity, but overall, I'm in total agreement with moving forward with a comprehensive plan adjustment or whatever it's going to be. But anyway, with that, I just wanted to be on record. I'll second the motion from Commissioner Beatty.
We have a motion and a second. Bring it back for discussion again.
Yeah, just as a reminder, I fully agree. The protective overlay, and there is a requirement for a municipal water source. It's a part of the motion to require that. So if you can't get a municipal water source, it's part of the protective overlay. If it can't happen, then the zoning request wouldn't be fulfilled. So that's my motion. We have a second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye.
Oh, Chairman Blubaugh.
Aye. All right. Motion passes 4-1. So, Madam Clerk, please call the next issue. Next item.
Item E, DER 2024-0009, amendment to the July 9, 2009 edition of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Unified Zoning Code adopted by City of Wichita Ordinance Number 48-431 and Sedgwick County Resolution Number 137-9 as amended, establishing the short-term rentals in the county land use as provided in Article 2B and Article 3D 6RR, short-term rental in the county.
Scott Wadle again, and if I could, sir, I'd like to say thank you and very good job reading out the item. I apologize that we have such long names for them. So this is on short-term rentals in the county, and so the recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission, approve the amendments, and the other related actions. In terms of the process, just a quick review on this. This has been, of course, just like any amendment to the zoning code, a multi-step process. We're currently at the, obviously, Board of County Commissioners, and then the next step, if you approve this, would be to send it to the City Council for consideration. But up until this point, it's been to BOCC staff meetings, MAPC advanced plans meetings, and MAPC meetings, and we've got additional detail on that in just a moment. In terms of the issue, the reason why this has come up as part of a conversation is that short-term rentals are not currently allowed in the county, largely. If you've got a commercial piece of property where hotel, motel is allowed, you could do it. But otherwise, it's not allowed. And we see these mostly occurring on residential properties, so that creates an issue. In terms of the context, Sedgwick County is not alone in kind of wrestling with this issue and trying to figure out what's the right fit for the community. The City of Wichita did this as well in 2023, considering this, and there are multiple counties across the state and across the country that are wrestling with this. In terms of background, just additional detail in terms of the meetings. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just want to let you know that I give you a sense that there have been conversations leading up to this point. It's been a multi-year endeavor to have this conversation. In terms of definitions, so short-term rental is commonly what people know as a VRBO or an Airbnb property. So it's the use of a residential dwelling unit or structure for temporary lodging and for transient guests. And the dwelling unit may or may not be owner occupied at the time. So it can be as diverse as just renting a bedroom. It could be a rather large house or an entire property with more than just a house and other amenities. So here's some photos. To my knowledge, these are not in Sedgwick County, but they look very nice. Could be. In terms of the recommended amendments, so it would add definition short-term rentals in the county. So that would be added, as well as it would create a process where short-term rentals could be approved or permitted using an administrative permit or a conditional use. And we'll talk more about the administrative permit, but I just want to highlight that that process would not require going to the MAPC, to the Planning Commission, or coming to the Board of County Commissioners. That would be a process that could be approved by staff. The conditional use is a process that we use very frequently for other uses, so folks are well versed in that one. The last point on here is that both of those, if approved, as currently written, an administrative permit or a conditional use for short-term rental in the county would last for 5 years, and after that period of time, they would have to come back and reapply for that. And there was quite a bit of discussion about this one as we've gone through the process, and part of that discussion is that in the city of Wichita, they use a licensing program. So there's zoning, it takes place, it's a one-time thing for the property, but there's licensing, an annual license that's required. When we talk about in the county, it's just zoning. The licensing is not proposed, and part of the reason for that, the background, is that there was a conversation about which one was the best fit for the county, and so far to date, it's been that the zoning for 5 years is a better fit simply because the apparatus for the licensing process is not in place and would have to really be ramped up pretty substantially. In terms of the amendments, it would allow for short-term rentals only to take place in dwelling units, but also accessory apartments. So you could have one of those on the property. It could be primary or accessory use, and it cannot be done in an RV. So unfortunately, the Airstreams, I think they're really cool, but consistent with the rest of the zoning code, you could not use that as a dwelling unit. You can't use it for a short-term rental. In terms of requirements, the property manager, the owner-operator would need to be designated. They've got to live within 30 miles. They've got to be accessible in case there's an issue 24/7. And they've got to put contact information publicly visible so folks know who to contact. There would be limitations on gatherings, so no more than 20 adults, and an adult is defined as a person over 12 years of age. And if they wanted to do more than that, they always could apply for a conditional use. So there's always that option. And then any short-term rental in the county would be subject to inspection. Inspections are not required in order to receive the permission to operate the short-term rental, but what this does is this allows the county to do inspections if there's an issue that's reported and something needs to be investigated. They also limit what the activities can take place at a short-term rental. Pretty much just things that are typically associated with residential use. They got to have trash service, and they got to be in compliance with all the codes and safety issues. So in terms of the administrative permit process, the way that would work is that we would send out letters to abutting and contiguous properties, and I'll show an example of what that means, but it means basically the neighbors touching and also neighbors across the street. There's a 14-day protest period, and if more than 50% of those property owners submit a protest, then that's effectively an appeal, a valid appeal, and ultimately the administrative permit would be denied. If it's 50% or less, then it is approved and it moves forward. Typically, we get through this process with the city cases in about 2 to 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, I would say, at the most, typically. Sometimes it's much quicker than that. Now, if an applicant went through this process and it was denied, they would always have the option of going to a conditional use, which means that they would present their case in front of the full MAPC and perhaps even all the way to the county commission. So here's an example from the city of Wichita, just what it means in terms of abutting and contiguous in terms of properties. Here's what it would mean, an example in the county. So you can see that 29th Street here divides it. This is just a random property. This property owner did not apply for a short-term rental. So, but it gives you an example that even the properties across the street, if they're touching or contiguous, would count. Here's another example out in the county of how that would apply. And just another one. When we talk about owners of record, just want to be clear that if a husband and wife or two individuals own a property, that both would need to sign because it's based, that would indicate one owner. In terms of enforcement, there was discussion about whether or not a monitoring service is necessary. The City of Wichita contracts for a monitoring service. When we talk about the unincorporated county, we think the numbers are not high enough really to warrant that. So through the conversations, that's not coming forward as a recommendation. Enforcement would be based on complaints, so on a complaint basis. And again, if there's any issues, you would have that 5-year cycle of applications to that could be brought up again after that 5 years is up. So the recommended action is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission, approve the proposed amendments, and all the necessary related actions. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Brady?
Hey, Scott, thanks for all the work and staff, all the work you guys have put into this. This has been quite a process. We kind of planned from behind because these are things that the market had done, and now we're trying to make adjustments with policy to make sure that they're amenable to the community. How many, do we have an estimate, how many Airbnb short-term rentals do we have at the City of Wichita only, just in the city limits?
We'd say approximately 550. It's always a little bit variable because some are coming online, some are going off,
sure.
So it changes.
About 550, which necessitates some sort of policy as to how these things are governed. What about in the county, unincorporated part? Do we have any indication of how many are in the unincorporated parts of the county?
When we started that, we don't have a good handle on that because it just depends on how many reports or just general knowledge that someone might have. When we started this conversation a couple of years ago, I think we were estimating somewhere around a dozen, somewhere in that ballpark.
Many of these are venues, wedding venues that may have a cabin and things like that. So
ones that we're most familiar with, yes.
Okay.
Typically,
so obviously, the situation in the unincorporated part of the county is significantly different than in the City of Wichita. But I still think a policy governing use is really important. So I appreciate the work that's been done. I'm going to be supportive of this because I do think it's necessary to permit these in the unincorporated county. They're not permitted at this point in time. So it is important to permit these and let landowners monetize their property as they see fit in some regards. So I just want to say I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I know it was a pretty heavy lift, and we've been talking about this for the better part of a couple of years. So appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. Just, again, I'll be supportive of this today. I think it's time for us to move forward finally. The only thing I would say is just it's a word change. I'm not suggesting we even make the word change right now, but I would simply say in the future, rather than calling 12-year-olds adults, I'd rather just say persons age 12 and above. That would be a much cleaner way to say, because I think when you codify that 12-year-olds are adults in any document, it becomes, if you will, a point of argument in other documents. So codifying 12-year-olds as adults is probably not something I would like to see us do. I think it's a way to handle the same thing, but do it more cleanly, just simply say persons age 12 and above.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the commissioners, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. You have 5 minutes. Please provide your name and address. All right. If no one from the public would like to speak, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. If there's no other questions, then I will go ahead and make the motion to adopt the findings of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and approve the proposed amendments to the Unified Zoning Code, sign the resolution, and authorize the resolution to be published.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye. Next item, consent. I'm sorry, next item, Board of Bids. Joe Thomas, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director, and the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting of January 15th. We have 2 items for you. Our first one is Net Smart Care Manager software for ComCare, and this recommendation is to accept the quote from the Association of Community Mental Health Centers of Kansas, Incorporated. It's in the amount of $111,104 and is for a period of 1 year, beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2026. Our last item is the clinical laboratory services for the Regional Forensic Science Center. Recommendation is to accept the pricing from both Kansas Pathology Consultants, PA, and Kansas Pathology Services, LLC. It's at the rates listed in the table, and it is to be auto-renewed annually with a not-to-exceed annual increase of 5%. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have and recommend approval.
Commissioners, any questions? If not, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the recommendations of the Board of Bids and Contracts.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
And the motion passes 5-0. Next item, consent. Tom?
Chairman, thank you. Good morning. Commission, Tom Stoles, County Manager's Office. Recommend approval of consent items G through K this morning.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? Now I'll make a motion to approve consent items G through J.
Okay.
Through K.
Through K.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Chairman Blubow.
Aye. Legislative issues. Tanya Cole, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm here to give a legislative update. So this is the second week of the legislative session, so I'm just going to go over some dates. As you're aware, this is a 90-day calendar session, so we have 49 days before adjournment, and turnaround day is February 19th, which is the final day before non-exempt bills to be passed by their original chamber, and then the deadline for individuals to request bill drafts is January 26th. As I mentioned last week, we provided Watkins Public Strategies with potentially 10 bills on our legislative platform to be sent to the revisor's office. We have received a bill back regarding the expanding the qualifications for the appraiser's position, and we know that Representative Hoheisel will introduce that bill on our behalf. One thing that I do want to mention is currently there is a backlog in the revisor's office, and that has to do with they are currently working on their old system. We understood that they were going to have a new system. That new system is not ready, so they are working on their old system, which is slow, and that doesn't, of course, change the deadlines. So we're unfortunately just going to have to wait to hear the status of our bills, and then, of course, just be prepared to follow those through and how those make progress. One thing I'll mention is we talked about Dr. Stedman and the cremains bill. We did find out that there were just a couple of technical amendments to that bill, and then we did hear that there is going to be an add-on to that bill from Mortuary Arts, and that's going to be a continuing education requirement for funeral directors onto our bill. I'll mention House Bill 2329, but I'm sure that Commissioner Howell will want to speak to this a little bit further. This bill is increasing the cumulative detention limit for juvenile offenders and criminal penalties for juvenile offenders who use a firearm in the commission of an offense or who are repeat offenders, or providing for increased placement of offenders in non-foster home beds in youth residential facilities. Both Commissioner Howell and Sheriff Easter will be testifying on this bill tomorrow. So I'll just mention again that I can believe that Commissioner Howell will want to speak to that. House Bill 2464, this was introduced last week by our state lobbyist group, Watkins Public Strategies, on behalf of the Wichita Chamber. It was introduced into the House Committee on Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development, and this bill extends Kansas aviation tax credits. This was scheduled to expire in December of this year, and these incentives are essential to economic development strategy and keeping Kansas competitive in attracting and retaining aviation manufacturing, maintenance, and engineering jobs, particularly in Wichita and in South Central Kansas. So what House Bill 2464 does is it moves that sunset out and renews the program for another 10 years. And so one thing I would ask if you wanted to consider is there is a hearing next Tuesday, and I didn't know if you would maybe want to consider writing or providing written testimony for this. I did reach out to Brent Shelton. He is supportive of this, and we can, if you're interested, we'd be happy to write up testimony and provide that for you to review. And so lastly, what I bring up is we've talked about this a couple of times, and we talked about this yesterday, and that is SCR 16. That's the proposed constitutional amendment to cap the assessed value of real property at 3% per year. Commissioner Howell has revised the cover letter on that, and as well, he provided the case study yesterday. And so I think at this point, I'd like to hand it over to Commissioner Howell. Nicole provided those handouts, and I think Commissioner Howell would like to go over that.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to communication staff for making my document look so much better. They do a great job, as always. But the case study is what you received yesterday. Is the same information, it looks like. It's just cleaned up, and I would hope that I can use this because it is, again, is based on actual housing appraisal data from 2022 through 2025. And using actual data, I was able to confirm some of the previous analysis that I had done that reveals that there are some unintended consequences, I think, of Senate Concurrent Resolution 1616. We talked about this yesterday in staff meeting, and I perceive there's a little bit of reluctance to state opposition to the only discussion that's happening right now in Topeka regarding property tax relief. There's I believe, a concern that we will come off as being pro-tax or not wanting to solve the concerns that people have, our voters and taxpayers have on property tax. And with that in mind, I did hand out a few minutes ago, and you have a copy, commissioners, and as well as the front staff here, that will be in the record, that I did want to add a couple of paragraphs to the cover letter that I provided yesterday. Again, thank you to staff for cleaning that up and making that look so much better. If we don't agree today that this is what we want to do, then I will do this on my own. But if we do agree that this is what we want to do, then I think we can use our lobbyists to do a better job communicating with legislators. So again, I don't want to divide the question or divide the comment and say that we're opposed to Senate Concurrent Resolution 1616 without saying why we're opposed, and that we have other ideas on how to address the same problem. So again, that conversation has to stay coupled together. So I've added 2 paragraphs, 2 areas of this letter. I handed it out currently. The first one, I'll try to read this. I did this fairly quickly today, so if there's a word change I need to make, that's fine. But after the first paragraph, the second paragraph now says, we believe property tax reform in Kansas is essential, and members of this commission have identified members of this commission. We've not agreed on this, but members of this commission have identified up to 16 policy opportunities to address property taxpayer frustration. These better ideas would help the taxpayers if they were a victim of an unfair appraisal. Some of these better ideas would lower property taxes and make the system fairer. There are better ideas than Senate Concurrent Resolution 1616. If the concurrent resolution should pass in its current form, what is intended to address spikes in property taxes due to spikes in valuations will merely shift the tax burden and create inconsistent and unequal assessment rates. Worse, if the concurrent resolution is as bad as this analysis indicates, there is no reasonable means to fix the unfairness it will create. That's the first paragraph. I like to add it to the letter. On the back side, down at the bottom, it says, going forward, people of Kansas are demanding property tax reform. We want to help usher in better ideas and help solve the current challenges. Instituting a taxpayer advocate, instituting a hearing officer panel to make binding corrections to bad appraisals, automatic reviews of statistical outliers are just 3 of the solutions on the 16 potential ways to make the system better and fairer. Please take the time necessary to do a comprehensive review of the better ideas and form an interim committee to bring the legislation to the people that will truly solve the property taxpayer frustrations of our great state. To me, that makes this letter better. And again, I think that if we don't want to speak to the concerns that SCR 1616 creates, then we can not approve this. But I think these are pretty significant. Once again, let me remind my colleagues that 3 days of public hearings on Senate Concurrent Resolution 1616, these 2 things did not come up in testimony. I don't know that the legislatures know what we know today. The evidence is compelling, and it is absolute. The second, one of the other points I would make here is based on the current form of SCR 1616. Again, the 2 points I would say, again, everyone would have a different appraisal assessment rate. That violates the Kansas Constitution. But I think one of the other issue is it shifts the tax burden to people who can least afford it. And a lot of taxpayers, about half them, roughly half them, are going to see a tax increase because of SCR 1616. It does not lower taxes. It shifts who pays. And then thirdly, in the current format, because it lowers the appraisal values down to 2022 values, in August of this year, if this was to pass, we'd have to deal with a $45 million shortfall. So your choices are to cut spending by $45 million or to raise the mill levy to fill that void, and that would be over 9 mills of property tax. Again, I'm not suggesting that's the good thing. I would never want to support that. But it's a problem that this bill creates, and we need to understand that. So no one brought up that issue either in the testimony last week from Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday last week. So I feel like if we want to approve this, we can have Jason do some work and get the word out. That there's some things that were not stated during the hearing. If we don't want to approve this, then I guess I'll do this on my own. I would ask my colleagues to support this. I don't know if there's some discussion, and if I need to make a motion, I will, but I'd like to hear some discussion before I make a motion.
Commissioner Meissner?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, I just can't thank you enough, Commissioner Howe, for all the work you've been doing on this, including the vast amount of data and spreadsheets to help get to this conclusion. I believe we had sent one of these versions. I was able to fill in for Commissioner Wise on the weekly call with our lobbyist, and we had a pretty decent. So I joined the chairman on that. We had a pretty robust discussion about it, and as you know, Commissioner Howell, the mood in Topeka is very fluid, or I need to be as respectful as I can to what their process is as well. But that being said, we have sent which version they wanted to review it and see it ahead of time, or just see it now so they could comment. Did we send the version that the staff, that our great communication staff did, or the version that Commissioner Howell just passed out?
It would be the version that Nicole's handed out.
Okay. So with the additions that Commissioner Howell has provided, a couple of paragraphs is pretty. There's some added stuff there, some added information. The other thing that was discussed was a little bit, do we take a formal, the first sentence, do we take a formal opposition versus an environment where we just provide great information that, as you've said before, Commissioner Howell, you and we are not sure that the state that the legislators understand the depth of what the impact of what it is. So, but we have not heard back from this was all happening last night, yesterday, and maybe this morning. We heard back from Watkins.
We have not. I sent that to him yesterday afternoon, and I have not heard back from him.
Okay. At this point, I'm still struggling with being on record as in opposition more so than providing the information, respectfully, for sure. I'd almost like to hear back how our lobbyists think this could navigate into the education part and opposition or not, or neutrality or not. So I'll let others comment, but I'm almost thinking maybe we need to defer it at least for a day or two or a week or whatever. But and even such, as you've said, Commissioner Howell, you'd still prefer yourself to go up and take a position on your own versus the commission body. But I'm not comfortable yet. But I'll listen to the conversation. But I can't thank you enough for the work you've been doing on this. So.
Tanya, what's a timeline? This is a pretty aggressive timeline, isn't it?
Yeah, what I mentioned yesterday was Senator Tyson was going to work this on the 27th, and so I think there was a little bit of expediency to this just to get this in front of the legislature, just because of understanding it's a 90-day calendar session. Everything is just moving so quickly.
Commissioner Wise.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell, thank you for spending all of this time. You are gifted with data, and this data is actually really terrifying. I would stand with you on a strongly opposing position here. I think we owe it to all of the constituents to do that, but not only in Sedgwick County, but across the state. To cut $45 million out of our budget we're cutting core services that we cannot do. So I am supportive of having the best strategy to make sure that we do the best job at opposing this, whether it's through Commissioner Meitzner's approach on providing information and being more informational on our approach. I'm leaning towards an opposition stance, and not in a way that we know more or we're smarter, because I know they know a lot too, but we need to show this impact to our specific community using specific data, and I think we need to stand behind it. This is terrifying. So I guess those are my thoughts.
Yeah, appreciate everybody's opinions here. Commissioner Halligan, thank you. All the data. And I think you are right that you're raising some angles of the proposed legislation that I don't think are being taken into consideration right now. And I think it's important. I fully agree that the rising levels of property taxes over the last 5 years has become a crisis for many families in Sedgwick County. Not all, but particularly those on fixed income, those working class families. It has become a challenge in Sedgwick County and across the state of Kansas. So I understand the urgency that the state has in wanting to address the problem and address the situation for the constituency. I just don't think this does that. And I think that is my angst with the proposed legislation is this doesn't fix the problem they're trying to fix. This isn't it. I don't want to get out ahead of anybody or get ahead of anything else, but I would much rather see them have conversations about tax lids and have conversations about actually putting caps on the tax dollars, not the valuations. The valuations doesn't solve the problem that they're trying to fix. So I am in opposition of the bill because I don't think it's the right course of action. I think it sounds good. I think many citizens, they see rising valuations on their assets, and because it oftentimes turns into property tax increases, they blame the valuation instead of blaming the policymakers that are building the budgets that result in higher property taxes. So I would actually much prefer them go after the route of a tax lid of some sort or a year-over-year cap on increases, some sort like that. I just don't think this solves the problem because, as Commissioner Howe said, the conversation at Sedgwick County government would be, okay, if we're looking at a $40 million shortfall, we would either have to cut $40 million of services. And can I just say for those of the cut crowd that we don't have $40 million to cut without cutting core services like EMS and 911 and the sheriff, and that's not available to cut. And responsible governance would mean that we would have to raise property taxes to help fund those gaps, which is, again, totally opposite of what it is they're trying to fix. And we would be one of over 100 taxing jurisdictions in Sedgwick County, just in our county, that has to make that same decision. So this doesn't solve the problem. I think it's very superficial. I think it's very aesthetic. So I want to support ideas that actually solve the problem. So I will join in your opposition to this because I do think the way in which we have this conversation is really important, to say that we agree with the premise, we don't agree with the mechanism you're using. And as Commissioner Meitzner said, I think it's really important that we engage who I believe to be the most effective lobbyists at the state level, which is our lobbyists, the Watkins Group, that we find a way to engage them how to do this in a way that makes most sense. So that's the discussion you asked for. I'm supportive of the action. I'm curious as to the timing and how we get everybody comfortable to make sure that we're unleashing the Watkins Group to do the work for us.
I just kind of want to add my own feelings on this. You know, this is something I've watched very closely, something I campaigned on, and I believe we need some kind of adjustments in property taxes, but I don't know that this is the fix. I particularly try to focus on the assessments, and I know right now there's a lot of people that are overassessed and there's a lot of people that underassessed, and I just don't like the freezing of the time. Another thing, I always like the sale of the property being the adjustment to show where the current value is. And I understand in this bill, there is no adjustment with the sale of property. It's 3% forever and ever. So I like Commissioner Howe's idea of the taxpayer advocate. I like some of those other ideas a lot more than I like this just blanket 3% cap. Commissioner Howe?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. I know we don't have a meeting next Wednesday. Do we have a staff meeting planned for next Tuesday?
We do not currently, sir, but we can schedule at the convenience of the commission.
I think if we could somehow meet on Monday or Tuesday to kind of come back and give us the weekend to think this through, that's fine with me. As long as this is, again, if we're going to try this strategy to get this in front of the people before that Thursday meeting and help give them a chance to understand it and ask questions and have Jason give them a chance to do his thing, that would be ideal. Again, there's only 8 or 9 probably 9 members of this tax committee, I believe. So it's not that many people there. Eventually, this needs to get to all the legislators, because I do think that the Senate committee will pass this out regardless of what we say. But from that point, it goes to the full Senate, and they'll have a debate on the floor. I think it's important for the senators to understand this. Let me make a couple of points here. Number one, when you say Sedgwick County is in opposition, that gets their attention. We're 1/6 of the state's population. It matters what we think. We have respect to the legislature. We really do. And when we speak to an issue with strong language like this, they hear us, which I think is fantastic, that they want to hear from us. And this strong language, I think, is necessary. There is a risk of saying it this way, and to Commissioner Meitzner's point, the risk is that they divide the paragraph. And again, all they say is we're against property tax reform. That's not true. No. We're absolutely for property tax reform. I'd like to lead the state in this discussion. I feel like we have more ideas and more stuff on the table than anybody else in the state of Kansas. We have been really aggressive in creating ideas that I think are great ideas. And by the way, I met with one of these state's experts. I won't tell you who it is. I took him out to lunch. We sat down and had a great conversation about this, and his response was, those are really great ideas, Jim. Those are great ideas, but that's going to take some time. We don't have time. People need relief this year, right now, this session, and we need to do something right now. I said, but what you're going to do is actually going to make things worse. And he said, well, at least we'll have reform, and people are anxious for something to happen. We need to do something right now. In other words, they don't want to take the time to do it right. So doing it quick is more important than doing it right. That's the reality of what we're talking about here. Let me make a couple of points here. Just to, again, anybody wants to see this data, it's available. I want this to be available to anybody. So this is a 3-page white paper. Again, staff did a great job. On the end of this, there's a link. You want to go see the data yourself? There's a giant spreadsheet that's got 161,000 rows of data. I'm not making this up. This is real data. Yeah. In fact, I went and found my own house on the data to make sure it was correct, and it was. So there's a link to go see the entire spreadsheet. I'm not making this up. Under the scenarios that I can come up with, again, forgetting the 2022 issue, which is a big issue on its own. Again, they might just strip that out of the bill and say, all right, we're not going to do that. But the rest of the bill still has problems. So ignoring the 2022 reset, which is a gigantic problem, but just going back to reasonableness, if I said we're going to use a mill levy that generates the same assessed value growth we experienced the same tax levy increase we needed to run this year's budget, that was a 4.29% tax levy increase. Bear in mind, consumer price index was just a hair under 3%. We add in population growth and new construction. I can argue that 4.29% was pretty reasonable. Okay, but if you wanted to use that 4.29% increase, here's the reality is, under this law, 83,000 properties have a tax increase they would not have had under current law. 83,000 properties have a tax increase because of this proposal. If I take a more conservative approach and say, all right, we don't need the 4.29% increase. Let's go with the assessed value growth of the jurisdiction, which, by the way, was 8.6%. Under this proposal, that drops down to 2.4%. Why is it less than 3%? Because you're averaging properties that did not increase in value. You average all those together, the average increase for the jurisdiction goes from 8.6% down to 2.4%. If I simply capture the 2.4% growth, it's less than consumer price index, first of all. It's below consumer price index. It doesn't really actually fund government. We have to find ways to cut government to live under the assessed value growth for the jurisdiction. But even if I use that conservative approach, there are still 68,000 properties that have a tax increase they would not have had without this proposal. And nobody else besides us seems to know this is true. Every single property has a different assessment rate. That violates the Constitution. And these tax increases on the people who can least afford it is a reason to say we have to be opposed. I want reform, but this is not the way to go forward. This is. I think we are. I hope people hear us. We want property tax reform, absolutely. And to Commissioner Beatty's point, on one of the 16 things, they wasn't going to talk about this publicly, but one of the 16 things is a tax lid. I'm in favor of a tax lid. Actually, I testified in favor of the tax lid in 2015. I went to Topeka on my own, away from this commission, and testified in favor of the tax lid. The problem with the tax lid is that there's no way to check with the voters to make sure that they approve busting through that lid, because the elections are expensive, they're slow, they are not dynamic enough to deal with the tax calendar. And there was a loophole for public safety, and the jurisdictions basically found ways of saying we're not going to go do it through a vote process to get permission to bust through that lid. I think that needs to be dealt with. There's got to be a way to check with voters to get permission. And by the way, Adam Smith in the Kansas House on the chairman of tax in the House has a petition solution to that problem, which some people say is unconstitutional as well. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a lawyer, but that's a better method only because it's dynamic. It doesn't cost a lot of money. So I do think there's better ideas out there. I think we need to be bullish on property tax reform. We need change in the state of Kansas, but let's do it right. And SCR 1616 raises taxes on people who can least afford it, creates an unfair assessment. Everybody has a different assessment rate. Every property is a different assessment rate under this law. It violates the Kansas Constitution. And for those two reasons alone, we should be opposed. I want them to do something better than this. Karen Tyson is a friend of mine. She is incredibly smart, and we actually became legislators the same year in 2011. We both became a state House member. She moved on to the Senate, and I moved on to the commission. She wants reform, and she has the cards in her hand. We don't have any cards. We need to make an appeal to them with a better idea. They don't know what to do. I think that's different than SCR 1611. They don't know what else to do. That's why I'm saying if we simply help them with that conversation, we can move the state in a better direction. So I would really ask my colleagues, if you want to do this on Tuesday or Monday next week and meet again and get consensus to go forward, I'll be willing to wait. Otherwise, I'll make a motion today that this letter that's handed by staff with the addition of these two paragraphs would be what I would want to see us vote on. And again, I'll be glad to do that right now, or we can do that Monday or Tuesday next week with consensus. So,
okay.
And I have another comment still about another issue here, but let's deal with this one first.
Okay. I want to get to Commissioner Meissner here in a minute. Tom, would it be appropriate next Wednesday? We're going up to Topeka. Would it be possible for us to call a meeting and discuss this in case we do have a voting action prior to us going to Topeka?
We could.
It seems like it's very fluid, and there's a lot going on right now.
There is. I think we have to be in Topeka at 1:30, and we'd have time for a 9 o'clock. It's a one-item meeting, so we can do it, or we can call a special meeting on Tuesday, whatever commission wants to do.
Yep.
I would rather Tuesday because I plan on going up much earlier on Wednesday.
Okay. Special meeting on Tuesday then?
Okay.
Special meeting or staff meeting?
Well, if we're going to take a vote, it has to be a BOCC meeting where you have authority to take the vote.
It's a legal question. Can we have consensus to issue this letter?
Justin Wagner, County Councilor. I think you can do it either way. You guys have approved feedback on legislative matters through consensus, but you could certainly, if there was a will to have a formal vote on it with motion and vote from each commissioner, then you'd need a special meeting. But you can do it either way. I think
we can staff it, I think.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and let the discussion continue, and then we'll determine what we want to do.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue two other items?
I think Meissner is.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, can I go to Commissioner Meissner, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah, just real quick. I'd be in favor if we just a regular staff meeting Monday or Tuesday, and we get a consensus on the direction, if that suffices. But I just want to also mention a small thing is that, Commissioner Howell, I've been reading your document. I've got a couple of word kind of questions that maybe I can get with you and Tanya if you guys are the ones that wrote. There's just a handful of, I just want to clarify,
Well, since we're not approving this today, please let me know if you have any thing you want me to subtract or change or word change, whatever. Those edits are totally welcome. Just let me know what you want me to change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Justin, can we confirm again for me what action we can take at a staff meeting versus calling a regular meeting?
The dividing line is traditionally been, if you want to take formal action, like with a motion, a second, the clerk calling the roll on an item, then you've traditionally had an actual meeting, either a regular meeting or a specially called meeting. But if it's just something where staff, you're complying with open meetings in a BOCC staff meeting, but you're usually not taking formal action in those meetings, but a consensus has been enough for staff to then take your legislative item, usually for the chairman's signature, to then deliver that to the legislature. So we've done that customarily, and I don't believe there's any problems with doing that, but you certainly could call a special meeting if you wanted to. I just wanted to note that you could really handle it either way in this case, I think.
Okay. So, Tom, we could call a staff meeting for 10 a.m. on Tuesday.
Very good, sir.
Okay. Do we need to vote on an action for that, Justin?
No, there's no need for that.
Okay. Commissioner Howe, go ahead.
Two more things. We've talked about a county, Sedgwick County proposal for a quarter percent sales tax potential. Again, if the legislature was to give that approval, if the legislature was to take this up and give us legislative approval of that, then we can have the conversation through the summer, and around August 1st, we would need to make a decision whether we're going to go forward or not. And of course, my personal opinion is that this would be entirely contingent initially on what Wichita does with their sales tax. So their vote is March the 3rd, and again, if there was to pass, I would probably just tell you up front, I would probably lose interest pretty quickly in going any further. But between now and March the 3rd or August 1st, if we want to have a conversation whatsoever, we actually have to go to the legislature. I heard someone say a minute ago that the deadline is January 21st. Today is I'm sorry, you said the 26th, excuse me.
That's correct.
Today is the 21st. We don't have a meeting between now and then. So we did not do what we needed to do to get this in a bill form and introduced by someone by that 26th. So I guess we're not doing this.
Commissioner Howell, Justin Wagner, County Councilor, if I could real quick, I believe Jason Watkins and Jessica Lukes both indicated that because this would be a tax bill, this can be taken outside of those time frames. In other words, after that. In terms of timing, Jason had indicated that doing so within the next 3 to 4 weeks would be ideal for any of that. So.
Well, you are right. The tax is one of the very few exempt committees for the deadlines, and so that's true. I'd forgotten that. All right, so let's just have the conversation on that. It needs to continue. On to House Bill 2329. I just want you guys to know, again, I'm not testifying, I guess, as a commission because I didn't produce testimony for you all to review, but I have testimony I've turned in, and I am headed to Topeka tomorrow to testify at 10:30 in the Senate Judiciary on House Bill 2329 as a proponent. So I guess I want you guys to know that. I would rather do it as a representative of this commission, but since you haven't had a chance to review my comments, I guess I'm not actually asking you to do that. But I don't know why we're following this process where every piece of testimony is reviewed by the full commission before I can testify on behalf of the commission. This is on our platform. Sheriff Easter's testifying in favor. I would love to do this as a advocate for this commission, but I know you have not seen my words, so I don't know if you feel comfortable trusting me, and if not, I guess I'll just do this by myself once again, but I would rather see the commission support me.
Can I? Yeah, this is the one that you'd be testifying with Sheriff Easter?
Not with him, but alongside him.
Well, okay, alongside.
We're on the same side of the bill.
Right. And I think we all in agreement, so I'm
I just want to remind you guys, Commissioner Beatty sat in on numerous meetings between the 2024 and going into 2025. We had identified five things needed to be addressed. That ended up in House Bill 2325 and 2329, which we've testified in favor of already. It passed the Kansas House Committee and the Kansas House body, and now it sits in the Senate. We have an established position of support. It's on our platform. I have now fought for, I can't tell you how many years now, for this issue. And this is a county issue because it impacts public safety of our county. And it would be really great for an elected, I really wish the Wichita City Council and members of the Wichita City Police would also testify. I appreciate Sheriff Easter, and by the way, I'm pretty sure that District Attorney is also providing support testimony, as well as some of our Sedgwick County judges are providing testimony. We have county corrections will be providing testimony. It's not just me, not just the sheriff, it's others, but they're all in favor. This bill is necessary. And I am thankful to a member of our community who spent, I think, a couple of decades in prison, who's also going to go with me in my car. We're going up there together. He's going to testify from the community's perspective why this bill needs to pass. This is a big deal, and I would ask my colleagues to support me so I can be an advocate as a member of this body, not just a member, not just myself.
Mr. Beatty? Yeah, I've sat in with these meetings with Commissioner Howe for a few years now. The bill is good. It's on our legislative platform. I would have no problems having Commissioner Howe testify on behalf of the county and behalf of the county commission for this bill. Zero problems at all. He is the resident expert on this issue, so I think it would be in good form to have him there.
Sounds like we have consensus. What else?
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote. I hear consensus with that. I will use the words, I'm testifying on behalf of Sedgwick County as a delegate from our commission. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else, Tanya?
Yeah, the only thing I want to look back on, Chairman, is that House Bill 2464, which is the Kansas aviation tax credits, and whether or not you want to put in written testimony as a commission to support that or not. And again, that has a hearing on next Tuesday.
That's been a strong one from the chamber and from the aviation industry, and I believe our lobbyist also represents that segment. So
does finance.
Yeah.
Finance likes it too.
So I'm okay with supporting it. I'm not sure we need to take the lead because it's got some pretty strong leadership on that issue. So I'm kind of okay either way, but I'd rather let the lobbyist and the aviation industry take the lead personally on this. And
anything else?
That's it. Thank you, Commissioner.
One more thing.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Can I just, hearing this conversation, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, I just want to re-emphasize that I think Commissioner Howe, well, we've all said that we've had tremendous successes, and they recognize Sedgwick County, and it just reminded me of this past year where we took on the corrections funding, that we had, and even the sales tax that we've paused on to help renew. So I do agree that when we speak and take an issue, that we're recognized, but I also think that it's because we do such really good, we really get the facts and the research down before we get out there, and even the point where a couple of them we said, hey, we don't want to go public, we want to solve this problem, and we had to end up going public on a couple things, which is fine, part of the strategy. So that's why I think it's really important on this position paper that we get it right and we get it comfortable, and that all five of us are the same page like we've been in the past. And so that's just my observation and recollection. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for all you're doing. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, next issue. Next item.
Committee reports.
Do we have any committee reports? Okay. Next item.
Other.
Other. Anything under other? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to, announce that it looks like I think Jerry Moran had sent out a note that there is a Commissioner Mike, I don't know if you probably understand this better than I do. There's some money that is in an application or a bill, I'm not sure exactly what it is, that earmarks $3 million for ARC 95, which again, that project continues to move forward. So this is yet another advancement, if you will, in the project of ARC 95, which is the overpass and the entrance probably to the Kansas Turnpike that's 95th Street South from Woodlawn to Broadway. And that would give us a overpass over the Arkansas River and the Santa Fe Railroad. So that is a very important project, and I just want to say thank you to the administration, I should say, to the Jerry Moran for continuing to follow that project and to for advocating the way he has. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. Sorry. And it's also, I want to thank our lobbyist, Jim Davenport. He stays on top of that really well. And I think the chairman and maybe somebody else is going into Washington soon. And I think this helps secure those kind of issues and follow up. So again, good teamwork and keeping everything on the front burner. So I'm eager and anxious for you, Chairman, to go there and walk the halls of.
I'm excited for the opportunity. Whenever I was in the Wichita City Council, I'd go out there and I'd always meet Jim Davenport, and he really did a great job as to getting us into some of the groups, the EPA and some of the other governmental agencies that we normally didn't have an opportunity to get into. So I really look forward to seeing what, learning more about what all he does for us at the county. Madam Clerk, next item.
Executive session.
We do not have an executive session. Next item. Okay. Meeting today is adjourned at 11:18. 11:18.